Hi, this is Chuck Beck, and this is Lazarus Recovery's YouTube, and this is another installment of 3 words. Today I'm in Proverbs 2, and I just looked at it very briefly, and I found 3 words that be familiar to everybody in recovery. They're not like theological words, they're just common words. And the guy that wrote Proverbs equated these words with wisdom. And so I want to talk about the 3 words. If you go into Proverbs 2, you will find them. I'm using the NIV. So the words they use are right, just, and fair. And I think that if anybody in recovery will know, they talk about, the idea of doing the next right thing. And that is a leap forward from the old ways. I don't think when I was a drinker, I didn't think about the right way. The only right way I thought about was what was right for me. And I think they're talking about not what's right for me, but what's right. Which is no standard of right. And they're basically sort of, Proverbs is saying, you're wise if you go for the right things. You set your heart to do the next right thing, as opposed to the next selfish thing. So this is a spiritual advance for people in recovery, is to do the next right thing. And I've heard it from the time I got sober on. It was the sort of the guiding light, the beginning first step of adapting a moral frame was, I'm going to do the next right thing. And Proverbs, it's interesting. You say, well, it comes straight out of Proverbs. A wise man does the next right thing. Now the other 2 words are just and fair. And I think that, as I've been a house manager and stuff like that, basically even active addicts and anybody has an idea about what is fair. Generally speaking, it's a sort of self-serving thing. Well, that's not fair to me. In other words, that's not fair that he's doing it and I can't do it, or it's not fair that he gets to do that and I don't get to do something else. That's not fair. In other words, everything should be fair. Things don't necessarily work out that way, but it is a biblical principle from way back. Proverbs is a long time ago. It's what it was, 600-700, I don't know what it was, 800-900 BC, something like that. So we're talking 3,000 years ago. No, actually, yeah, about probably around 3,000 years ago. They had a concept of fair. In other words, one person didn't get an advantage over another one. In other words, the rules were different for one person or another. So God's wisdom is fair. In other words, there are equal scales that are balancing things. There is no preference. I think that everybody says, well, God's not fair. God's eminently fair. It's just that we don't like the way he has the scales. Because it's not, we say it's fair if you follow my rules. He says it's fair if you follow my rules, because I'm the guy that made it run. He talked to a guy named Job at the end of the book, and he said, you can question me all you want, but where were you when I made the oceans? Where were you when I made breath in your body? Where were you when I made water and ocean and all that other stuff? Where were you? Fair is what I say fair is. So you say, well, you're not fair. Well, he says, I'm fair because it's my place, it's my stuff, You're playing with my stuff. You're breathing my air. You're walking in my ground. You're walking in comfort and peace in my peace. Because if I didn't hold it together, there would be no peace. You guys had wrecked the whole thing right now. So fair is more than what I'm giving you. I'm giving you grace. Fair is what you deserve. Grace is you getting what you don't deserve. So fair is his standard. He wants us to be fair to each other. He wants us to be fair and even-handed and just and not biased and not crazy about each other. So a wise man is fair to everybody else. And I think he wants us to be fair to him, to give him what he justly deserves, which is all the credit. He deserves all the credit. It's not like we're giving him extra. He deserves all the credit because I can take a breath in and out because he says it's okay. You know, I can live a full lifespan, or I can live a minute or two because he upholds the process that gives me that life. So fairness is a word, a biblical principle. And he says, I'm more than fair. I'm merciful and I'm forgiving. You know, I give you, you don't want justice, you don't want fairness, you want grace. So, but he says the concept, the beginning of wisdom is understanding the concept of fairness. So we have right living, we have fair living between each other, and the last word is just. Now, I have to tell a story. It's not an easy story, but I knew a guy in a church when I was first early saved. There's a guy, Pastor Jack Mitchell, and he ran a great church. And I went to a funeral because I happened to know the people, and the guy that passed away was a guy. He wasn't elderly, he was middle-aged, and he was working on his roof. He fell off his roof and he died. And I don't know what his status with the Lord was. I got an indication that maybe he wasn't altogether clear, because Pastor Jack didn't talk like it was altogether clear. But he brought a big, huge Bible. I'll never forget it. He never did that, but in this particular, he brought a huge Bible, a big old family Bible, to the funeral. And his message was, you know, God is a just God. He's a God that is not out to get you. He's a just God. You know, he values the good, and he'll give a just judgment about a person. You know, he's not going to be vindictive. He's going to give a just thing. You know, and that was a comfort to the family, and he delivered it well. You know, what he didn't do was to go into the salvation by grace through faith. In other words, he's a just God, and that's why we need grace. That's why we need to be covered by the blood of Jesus. That's why, you know, because he's just, because he's fair, because he's right, is why the kingdom is set up the way it is. Because we are not right. We don't live right. We don't live fair. The world that we live in ourselves, and the people we live around are not right all the time. We are definitely not just with each other all the time, and we're definitely not fair with each other. but God is. And that's his standard, right, just, and fair. And we say, well, I want him to be merciful to me and let me be not right, not just, not fair. Because he's God and he's got to do that. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. And so he had to come up with another plan. Because, according to his standard of rightness, justness, and fairness, we weren't any of those things. And he couldn't bring us into the kingdom as right, just, and fair. He had to come up with another plan. And the plan was that he would pay the price for us so that he could overlook that, so that he could have a plan to change us, because we can't change ourselves. He had a plan to change us. And that plan was his son. You don't believe it? I can't do anything about it. You can be right, just, and fair yourselves on your own, but it won't be my right, my just, my fair. It'll be your right, your just, your fair. And that's basically what human religion is. We set the standard and we judge people according to our standards. In other words, we pick it. We pick what we can do and we make that the standard. If you can't do what we can do, then that's your tough luck. But we pick the standards. We pick the right, just, and fair. Unfortunately, the way it works is God picks the right, just, and fair. And, the way, and his standard isn't our standard, so we miss the mark. They call it sin. We miss the mark of that thing. We try, we do, we got blah, 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 but we don't make the mark. So he said, my standard for eternity is not the way they're doing it. But they're trying. So basically what he did, he said, all have sinned, all have fallen short of the glory of God. All can't make the mark. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute something precious for me and pay the price. What you need to do to get inside that grace is to believe that this particular sacrifice was what it was, who it was, and the way it was. And if you can believe and accept that and work with it and allow that to come into your life and change your life, then we're good. Saved by grace through faith, not by works, lest any should boast. So that's the three words, right, just, and fair. And the only person that can make that work for us in front of God is Jesus. Jesus can make that work, make us right, just, and fair. We can't do it. I mean, you can think you can do it, but you really, really, really can't. So, it takes a substitution. It's like if you're playing a ball game, and you're tired out and you're weak, they bring in a substitute to take. Well, Jesus is the substitute, and they bring him in at the right time. They bring him in for a just reason, and they bring it in to be fair. They bring him into the game at the crucial point when we're getting ready to be thrown out of the game. And God said, no, wait, I have a substitute to put in your place. And he says, my son's coming in and he's going to play the final minutes of the game. So I don't have to throw you out of the game because you screwed up. So my son's coming in to play the game at the end. And we need that. We need that. We need that because we can't be right, just, and fair. But he can. And when he lives in us and with us and through us, we can act the way he acts. We can talk the way he talks. And we can be the way he is. because he is right, just, and fair. And we're not perfectly right, just, and fair. He is. So this is the 3 words for this time: right, just, and fair. You can comment below, you can tell me I'm a rotten bugger. Just remember, it's saved by grace through faith. Saved by grace through faith. You want, biblical things and stuff like that, ask the question, I'll comment below. But saved by grace through faith. And this is 3 words from Proverbs: right, just, and fair. And I pray you'd be blessed, but I pray you'd think about it. Think about right, just, and fair. It's very recovery thing. It's very much a recovery thing. But just remember, the perfect right, just, and fair is Jesus. And God paid the price so that you can get into that relationship. You don't have to earn it. He did it already. All you have to do is say, hey, I can't be right, just, and fair. Would you come into my life, Jesus, and help me to be right, just, and fair before the Father? And it's as simple as that. And I pray, oh God, that you would understand these simple things, and that you would consider them. And again, don't drink, don't use, go to a meeting, stay away from trouble, and do the next right thing, do the next just thing, do the next fair thing. And remember to ask for help. And if you want, just ask the help to show you whether Jesus is the way. I did it, and I was surprised when I got an answer. God answers that prayer. Show me who Jesus is, and he will. And it might freak you out a little bit. But, don't drink, go to a meeting, ask for help, and things will be okay.